Guys, at this point in time, I don't know what's going on with the Oblivion Remake, and I don't think anybody else does either. Okay, so a real quick recap. There have been multiple leaks pointing at the existence of an Oblivion remake made by a very large company that has done remakes and stuff like that in the past, but maybe not projects to the same size as this, known as Virtuos. They're the ones doing the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake. That information seemed pretty good and set in stone, specifically because it lined up with some court documents that Microsoft had to file regarding their purchase of Activision Blizzard, in which we could see the timeline of projects from Bethesda, well, from ZeniMax actually, which included Starfield and its DLC, and it featured the Oblivion remake and a Fallout 3 remake. And of course, things change and those release dates didn't come true as they delayed stuff, but obviously there was some sort of Oblivion remaster in the works. So after that, the fact that we get some pretty credible people saying that Virtuos is working on this thing means it's pretty certain. Then, news starts coming out just last month that the game might be shadow dropping and releasing super quick. And then we've had multiple opportunities for that to happen, and it hasn't happened. Normally, if this were just like credible leakers, maybe they get something wrong. But at this point in time, we have multiple people from across the entire industry reporting at different times that not only is the Oblivion remake real, but it is indeed shadow dropping, and they kind of keep moving the goalpost over and over again of like when that's happening. But at this point, we've got multiple sources corroborated by VGC. A lot of this stuff started off coming from Nate the Hate, which is a pretty damn reputable leaker, and now Jeff Grubb over at Giant Bomb, which I know a lot of people have some issues with Jeff Grubb and some of his style of reporting, but you can't say that the man doesn't have people on the inside, and he has also said that it's coming and it's shadow dropping. At this point, it really doesn't matter how much you trust a lot of these different sources, because there's just way too much smoke for there to not be fire. Yet somehow, I'm not playing the Oblivion remake right now. It just crossed my mind right now that maybe in the process of me editing and uploading this video, the Oblivion remake could shadow drop. This is so nerdy, but like I got chills thinking about like, oh my god, I get to play the Oblivion remake soon? Sorry, but real. Is it happening? And if it is happening, what's coming with that? Well, hi, I'm Mug, and if you're new here, welcome. And if you're not new here, welcome back. It's really good to see you. We're gonna talk some more about the Oblivion remake. We're gonna talk about if it exists, if it's coming out, and more important, what it means for Bethesda and the timeline and stuff regarding it. But honestly, a little bit of the tone of this video is just like hype, because we should be hyped one way or another, man. Who doesn't want to play some Oblivion? If you enjoy the video, hit the like button. If you don't enjoy it, subscribe, because we're trying to beat GameSpot in subscribers, and we're really close to doing that. Thank you. Let's get into it. So like, here's the interesting thing about the Oblivion remake. I don't think we've ever had such a strange overall experience for a game and its release ever. Most of the time, shadow drops have been pretty shadowy. So to basically be receiving multiple confirmations over and over again that this is real and that it is being shadow dropped, but you know, we know it's coming, and they know we know it's coming. Just really, really strange overall thing. And speaking about them knowing that we know it's coming, one of the bigger news pieces recently has been that Bethesda took off a lot of the trailers for the original Oblivion on Steam. And normally, a lot of companies tend to do that before they update that product or add a remake of that product or something similar. Now, let me temper your expectations. I really don't understand how that was like a big news piece to follow here, because they also removed a bunch of stuff from a bunch of other ZeniMax games overall. I just find it funny that they would be doing this at this time. It almost feels like they're like toying with us at some point. Or maybe it's just coincidence, who knows? What I think is the big thing is that, once again, Jeff Grubb might not be everybody's grub of tea, but I personally think he's had a decent track record, definitely in the positive, on reporting things, especially when it comes to insider reports. And to have him, as well as Andy Robinson over at Video Game Chronicle and Nate the Hate, who started a lot of this, reporting that the game exists, is coming, and is shadow dropping, kind of really solidifies the whole thing. I think it's undeniable that the Oblivion remake existed in some capacity and in some form because we knew about it for such a long time. So what's really exciting about this situation is we don't know at any moment. It could happen. Normally, someone like Xbox would try and like combine this with other stuff. So they might have showed it off at the showcase. Some people thought it would have to do with the Switch 2, which was always kind of ridiculous. Like, why? What would be the benefit of like showing off that the Oblivion remake exists and is coming out right now, right? Unless they announced it as a launch game for the Switch 2, which would have been interesting, but otherwise didn't make sense that they would have it there. And Xbox doesn't really have anything lined up. So if it is, as these people claim, a shadow drop, it's going to be the shadowiest of all drops. It's just going to be what? Like a post on X? Hey guys, hope you like Oblivion. It's here. Go play it on Game Pass. Bye. And somehow, a part of me thinks that is the most exciting possible way to release a game right now. Especially, you know, a known quantity like this where you don't really have to sell people on it. You could just be like, Oblivion, but now. And people will run to play it. I know that I will drop everything I'm doing to play the Oblivion remake. So everybody is just completely losing their minds over this, and it's understandable why. I also think, and don't hate on me for this, but I think it's kind of fresh and fun to just kind of get the game, especially for people who aren't in the know. If you just like saw something on the internet that was like, there's an Oblivion remake, like, oh wow, that's cool. Also, you can play it right now. Oh, that's awesome. Definitely goes a long way towards me feeling good about Bethesda games again, even though technically not a Bethesda game. But that is my segue into the next thing. So we once again have very conflicting information. Now, let me just say that from what I know, and I have covered the sources, the details of it, and the language around it in previous videos, but from what I know, this is Oblivion completely remade in Unreal Engine 5. This is not an Unreal Engine 5 skin on top of Oblivion. And to me, that is the most exciting version of this game. Some people say they don't want that. Some people say that they prefer if it were just Oblivion, even if it is with the new graphics on top of it, and some updates to the systems, because Oblivion was great as it is. So there's two things I want to say about that. Number one, if you really like Oblivion the way it is, and you want to like have the graphics be updated for it, just go mod the hell out of it, and the game is still there. You can go play it. Nobody's taking that away. And number two, I've been playing a little bit of Oblivion because I got, you know, there's a lot of news regarding Oblivion. And let me try and put this in a way that's not going to offend anybody, and it's still somehow going to offend someone. When Oblivion came out, it was mind-blowing. It was revolutionary. To a certain degree, it still is. I've been dabbling in Schedule 1, and the NPCs have like their own jobs and their own stuff and their own personalities and all of that. And I keep remembering Oblivion being the game where you kind of felt that for the first time, at least for me. Amazing game. A game that like I hold so near and dear to my heart, way more than something like Skyrim, and probably equal to, if not maybe a little bit below, Fallout 3. Oblivion is an old game. Like, I don't know how else to put it, that in a certain sense, a game like Starfield, which has modernized so much of the Bethesda system, still kind of feels a little bit antiquated. And Oblivion, for a lot of people that haven't played it in a very long time, the nostalgia carries you pretty far in loving and enjoying the game, right? Because you're aware of it being a game from 2006. But if you were to just evaluate it for what it is, it doesn't hold up particularly well. It's not out here like fighting with modern games. It's not fighting with most things released in the last decade at all. Doesn't matter how ahead of its time it was. Doesn't matter that some of the things that Oblivion did really are timeless. There is a lot about the experience that is just kind of jank and uncool. That's the fact. From stuff like combat and stealth to UI. I know a lot of people love the Oblivion UI. I do too. I just think it could be, you know, a little bit more modern, a little bit more elegant in how it functions. Not in its aesthetics. The aesthetics are great, but like the functioning of it. A lot of those dungeons could be more unique and have more palettes on which they swap over in making them feel better, in having the scale of it all feel cooler. Especially when I think about like reaching the Shivering Isles. I would be really happy if Oblivion had a lot of its quests executed with the spectacle and flair that a lot of the bigger moments that you see in something like Starfield, which is an area, in my opinion, where Starfield, you really notice the improvement on Bethesda's side of like, hey, Starfield has a million problems, but I think that its set piece moments during quests are done incredibly well, like really close to being good for any game without having to qualify them with like for a Bethesda game or for an open world RPG. Just certain parts of certain missions, you know, things exploding, big firefights, boss fights, like cool stuff happening as you are in the world. Shattered Space, for as terrible and disappointing as it was, that final mission at least has that spectacle. And I can't help but imagine the world of Oblivion having that sort of care put into it and saying that would be awesome. That wouldn't be a negative to the game in any way. It would just heighten what the game was obviously trying to do in a lot of places, but couldn't. This is why I personally hope that this is a from the ground up remake and not a weird reskin. Because there's a very clear feeling to these reskinned games, things like the Halo Anniversary Collection, where yeah, maybe the graphics of what's going on is much better, maybe some of the systems have been improved, but you can still feel, you're going to be able to tell during certain sequences that this is just, you know, a nice coat of paint put onto these stilted robots where they were trying to do the best they could to convey a certain size and scale to what was happening. And if those sorts of things aren't improved in the Oblivion remake, why remake it? Just to like have a graphics pack and say that the combat is a bit better now? To me, the part that's interesting about remaking a game is taking the opportunity to enhance and fulfill the vision that maybe wasn't possible to do back then. I'm not saying I want Oblivion's combat to be the same combat as Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, as much as I personally really like KCD 2's combat, right? But it's definitely not for everybody. But I would really like it if it weren't Oblivion's combat. I really wish it were just better, had more depth, you know, even the idea of maybe combos with certain weapons, or just how overall the feedback of a lot of stuff works, or maybe having to dodge attacks. Just make it more engaging. I think the dungeons and the puzzles, I think there could be more of them and they could be better. And improving the combat or the stealth or different systems, different things in the game would then also lead into progression and your skill trees and gear and the differences in that gear, which are just more opportunities for you to role play. And I'm sorry that in the back of my head I'm talking about all of this and I'm thinking a lot about Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, but I can't help it. That game is incredibly good. And again, I'm not saying that I want the Oblivion remake to be like Kingdom Come Deliverance 2. I'm saying that if you're gonna remake the game, I would like it to be bigger and better and bolder. And I think you just can't push that envelope very far when you just slap on a graphical upgrade. I think it should be a ground up remake. And I think that the most exciting part of it all would be to see how a Bethesda game runs on a different engine. We know that these sorts of games, the Scrolls-like genre, can work in other engines. The latest update to Tainted Grail, The Fall of Avalon, by the way, proves that very well. It's made in Unity and it fulfills so much of it without needing the creation engine. The modified Gamebryo from so many years ago still under the hood there. But it would be such a cool opportunity to see this really big, really hungry studio in Virtuos, right? Trying to move away from being a support studio to being a studio that pumps out their own games. They're working on bigger, high-profile projects. They're doing things like Metal Gear Solid 3. They're doing things like Oblivion to really take it, move it to a different engine, and improve it. And also, hopefully, defy some of the expectations, because I know a lot of people hear Unreal Engine 5 and they're like, ugh. And I get it. There's a lot of stuff about engines that is often difficult to change. There's a feel to certain engines that I think we as gamers have. But you can always be surprised. It really is a tool. You can push it in many different ways, right? But it's just the idea of taking the essence of something that we love from Bethesda games and showing how different it could be, where it could be improved, where things could be changed, where things could be cooler. And then on top of all of that, when I start to think of, you know, an eventual Elder Scrolls 6, and when I start to think of a Fallout 5, or I guess more appropriate for this conversation, when I start to think of a potential Fallout 3 remake, man, does the idea of people being able to understand and focus down that exploration essence, that world building, that NPC living, breathing element of Bethesda games, but taking that and then adding new stuff and cool stuff, modern feeling, interesting mechanics on top of it, satisfying combat, interesting stealth, interesting decision making in your build and in your gear and all of that, more cinematic moments, better framing of cutscenes and dialogue, things like that. I get so giddy. And the part that's crazy is that, yes, maybe it's just gonna be a slap-on skin and we will enjoy it for what it is, but maybe it's way bigger than we expect because we really don't know anything for certain at the moment. And it could be out tomorrow, you know? It could, I mean, probably more like on a Friday. And I just think it's wild that we live in a world where this is happening. Because yes, I do believe it's happening. I know there's people who think that they're not happening, but you know, that is what it is. So like, just before we go, I really wanted to talk about that distinction and when we're headed. I don't want to shoehorn it too much here because I'll probably talk about it in the future, but I'm a pretty big Metal Gear Solid fan. And by pretty big, I mean, you know, defined my personality for a while there growing up, like a lot of people, I think. And I kind of feel the same with Metal Gear Solid 3, that I would have preferred if that were less of a faithful remake and more of a, you know, we're going to push this to the next level, right? If I imagined Metal Gear Solid 3, but with the systems and like the open environments of Metal Gear Solid 5, that would be crazy. And when I look at the Metal Gear Solid 3 remake, I'm excited to play it, but I also think, I mean, Metal Gear Solid 3 is right there. You know, I could play that. And it just kind of affects me. And that's just kind of how I feel with a lot of this. However, Oblivion to me, you know, it was my first Xbox 360 game. It's a game that's really important in my life, and I think in the life of a lot of people. Like many Bethesda games and people who are into that side of gaming, Oblivion holds a really special place in our heart, and I hope that they're doing everything in their power to respect that and enhance it. And I can't wait for those of us who are looking forward to it to get to enjoy it all together. And that's why I made this video, because I think that it's worth being excited for it. I think it's worth being a little bit wary about what the game might be, because, you know, everything we just talked about. But I still think that we deserve to get excited over things, especially, you know, surprise shadow drops of remakes of incredibly beloved game is something that is worth celebrating. So be excited, and I'll give my opinion on it whenever it releases. It'll be at the very top of my list. This is just honest to goodness, like, gamer hype. You know, I try and keep it, you know, I do try and keep it relatively professional-ish. Like, you know, I stick to the facts. I do my reporting the best I can, and I try and make sure that I inform you guys to the best of my ability. But sometimes, like, I'm a gamer, man. I'm excited to play games sometimes, and this remake is one of them. I'm sorry, video production on the review for Assassin's Creed Shadows and Kazan will be delayed if the Oblivion remake comes out, but that's fine. That's also the style I'm adopting for the channel as well. I will have my reviews out. When I have them, I will just make sure that they have interesting reasons to exist. Sorry, I got distracted there. I hope you're having a fantastic day. I hope that you enjoyed this, that you found it entertaining. A very special thanks to the members on the $1 wall, the patrons and members of the channel that support everything that I do here. Thank you so much, and thank you for watching. Go out there, enjoy some great games, and I'll see you again very soon.